It's preparing right now.
Yeah, I will go live in 3 minutes.
Okay.
Do we have somebody here already in Zoom?
It's preparing right now.
Yeah, I will go live in 3 minutes.
Okay. That's weird. It's like.
Do we have somebody here already in Zoom? Is my audio clear? Or is there any delay?
All right, we'll begin, I think. Sorry for being 6 minutes late. Good evening, everybody. Do we have people who have joined already, or maybe we'll wait for a few minutes? Yeah, we've got 58 people on already. So maybe we'll wait for 3-4 more minutes and then we'll begin.
It's off.
All right, we'll begin. We have a few hundred people on already. Good evening, everybody. My name is Simarjeet Singh. I am from NASA India. I was the president last year. I'm currently serving as the advisor to the council. With us on the panel, we have Chelsea Gauthier. She is the associate director from the Center for the Living City. I think she's currently in California. And we have Srivardhan Rajalingam, who is a senior associate from Urban Design Collective, who is the India project coordinator for OAN also. So I'll begin with introducing the grants program itself and the first cycle, how it went. And after that, we'll quickly move on to a few presentations by Shri, and then we can take a few questions from the audience. So the OAN grants program was sort of conceived, I would say 1.5 years back or so, around second half of 2019, with Center and UDC. All of us were able to come to a common consensus, and we had a similar intention towards the society and the idea of how we should be as students progressing ahead. We had laid the foundations from 60th ANDC. UDC always has had that in their program of doing urban policy and urban planning design work. And Center had the Observe network and similar things which were aligned to us. So we ended up putting together the OAN grants program. The first cycle started at the 62nd ANC. So it was supposed to be a long project, but because of COVID, the timelines varied for everybody. So we had 42 entries in the first cycle. The jury consisted of Ashwin Mahesh, Rupali Gupte, Stephen Goldsmith, who was the executive director at that time of Center. You had Sebastian Trujillo from Colombia. He teaches at CEPT as well. You had Shahina Khan, who is from Delhi. She works in urban policy and is a conservationist. And we had, I think that's all. So out of the 42 entries, which spanned across the, it was pan-India and received entries majorly spread across. We lacked a few places where we could see COVID cases were high. But other than that, it was spread homogeneously across, out of which we selected 8 entries. And then from those 8 entries, we went on to have 3 fellows. Those 3 fellows received a grant of 500 USD to implement their projects. They were regularly, we used to do review calls and talk to them about their work, get experts in to put them more at ease and improve their soft skills for implementation of their project. And the idea was that they would join the network, and then this cycle and the coming cycle, you would have more people who would have implemented work on ground to be a part of it. And this year also, the same idea has continued. You have some financial aid, you have people who can help you out on your soft skills. So the communities that you really like, or the communities that you feel very connected to, you can give back as architectural students. That's how the program was conceived. I think Chelsea, you would want to introduce this cycle.
Sure. So I'll tell you a little bit about the OAN, or known as the Observation and Action Network. So the Observation and Action Network is an emerging network of like-minded young leaders globally. Some of these young leaders have emerged from NASA India during the first grants program round, and we very much look forward to building this network further this year with all of you. Building upon the momentum seen with youth activists around the world, the OAN aims to cultivate urgently needed new urban leaders. With the OAN in its second year, we are continuing to seek to connect students not only in India, but around the world, with other students, professionals, organizations, and mentors doing great work. This grants program is just one part of the OAN. Other components include our Jane Jacobs lecture series, Observe Communities, Observe Youth Programming, And we have some new great components that are in the works, and we're going to be announcing those beginning in 2022. So with the grants program in its second year, we're inviting your creative responses to be put towards a project that you design in the community. The world needs the creativity of young architects, designers, landscape architects, planners, and more. We want you to respond to the urgent problems and opportunities that you see in the places that you care about. In the past year and a half, we've seen the drastic effects of not only a pandemic, but people's lives being upended, climate change, socioeconomic impacts to communities, public health, safety, and social connections lost. But we've also seen people coming together and the power of community. We have the opportunity to dream big and to connect with others with real world on the ground product ideas. So the OAN seeks and supports your diverse young leaders' implementable ideas for a better future. The world's youth are empowered through their observational skills to discover, connect, and take action in the community. So we invite you to take bold, creative responses to what's seen and unseen. The whole Observation and Action Network is supported by organizations such as the Urban Design Collective, the National Association of Students of Architecture, Center for the Living City, Asia Initiatives, Public Landscape and Urbanism Studio, the Norayan Family Foundation, and Mariota University. So the grants program's founding partners is the Urban Design Collective. They are a collaborative platform for architects, urban designers, and planners to create livable cities through participatory planning. UDC was founded in 2011 as a platform to mobilize those who want to change the way our cities are built. By providing an open platform for young design professionals who otherwise as individuals are excluded in the city building process to create and disseminate content, we give them a chance to voice themselves as change makers for better cities. As a result, UDC has come to be a global community of architects, designers, engineers, artists, writers, photographers, and many others who are passionate about cities. One of the second founding partners is NASA India. So headquartered at the School of Planning and Architecture, NASA India is one of the largest architectural student organizations in the world, with students participating from more than 200 colleges all over India and countries around the world. The main objective of NASA India is to create a platform for architecture students to learn and interact, engage them directly and indirectly through both online and offline platforms. NASA India conducts events, conventions, seminars, workshops, design competitions, and trophies, and many other activities. The third founding partner is the Center for Living City. So we were launched by a group of activists, practitioners, and academics in 2005. The Center for Living City holds the singular distinction of being the only urbanist organization founded in collaboration with Jane Jacobs. In the years since our founding, the center has become a leading global urbanist organization. Advancing social, environmental, economic justice forms the core of our purpose. The center works to invite all perspectives, particularly those of the marginalized, to participate in the creation of solutions that are empathic, responsive, and community-based. And this year, we are grateful for the support and financial commitment made by Asia Initiatives, Narayan Family Foundation, and Plus towards the 2021 OAN grant cycle. So Asia Initiatives' mission is to leverage the power of social capital to improve neighborhoods, healthcare, education, and livelihoods for underserved communities, striving to bring positive change in the quality of life of people. With a particular focus on women, girls, and their families, their initiatives utilize transformative methodologies and technologies to empower people to realize their full potential and become key stakeholders of their own success. Our next partner, the Narayan Family Foundation and Plus. So the Narayan Family Foundation's goal is to improve lives through investments in education, culture, and the environment. The foundation provides seed funding to several social impact projects. The Public Landscape, and Urbanism Studio Plus and the Narayan Family Foundation have a joint initiative to focus on making our shared spaces ecological, equitable, and livable. Plus hopes to create a platform for landscape architects, allied professions, nonprofits, public agencies, and communities to address urgent challenges in India's built environment due to rapid urbanization, climate change, and rising sea levels, and increasing social inequity.
Thank you, Chelsea. Shri, would you like to? You're muted. Yeah.
So thank you, Center and NASA for having this program today. It's actually good. We've been, like Simran mentioned, it's been 1.5 years since this started, and moving forward, I'd like to directly get into specifics of the program. So this is an opportunity for you to transform your ideas into reality, and this need not be restricted just to physical interventions. It could be design of participatory approaches. It could be information campaigns, public art projects. It could even be a digital tool. It can be various. It could even be gamification, or various form of ideas can take shape through this grants program. And though we've had a first cycle, they are just one set of projects. So it's good if you would like to refer them, but don't get restricted to just those project ideas in any ways.
Right. Shri, would you like to present the stakeholder presentation? After
Sure.
that, we can move to question answers.
Yeah. Okay. My screen visible?
Yeah.
Okay, fine. So getting into specifics of identifying stakeholders and the stakeholder engagement techniques, this is one thing that is not there in many of the colleges here in India. So we thought we would give you some basics on how to do this, because this is a very critical component of this OAN project. So moving into stakeholder engagement, there could be three types of engagement that can be done with the communities. So the first thing is to keep the communities informed of what is that is happening. What is it? What is your idea? What is that you're planning to do for them? What is it, the transformation that's going to happen? Second, this is a one-way approach. While second one being hearing out communities is a two-way approach, where you actually ask the community what they would like to have, and then interact with them and hear out their opinions as well. While the third thing is again a two-way approach, which is a collaborative design process, where you involve them in the design, take their inputs and design accordingly. So moving on to who could be potential stakeholders for your projects. These are some of the sample profiles that have been listed here. So definitely there would be a government sector in any of the project that you are looking at. So the government sector includes the local body, the urban local bodies, state government or central government, any of the government agencies. And then you have the statutory agencies who are actually involved with approvals and planning and all of those. And when we say political sector here, we are referring to the elected representatives who own a stake in public areas, public domain. And next one, commercial sector is it could be local businesses, it could be any sort of a commercial establishment that has stake in your site. And non-governmental sector is all the NGOs who, if you take a community and a particular NGO might be working with that community, so they would be able to help you understand the community better. So they also have some important stakes to play. And then subject matter experts, they would be able to give you some inputs on how to address or the issue or take forward your idea. And then we have civil society entities, representatives, which could be the civil organizations and resident population of varying demographic profiles. So this actually varies as per your site. The resident population that is there, the community could vary from place to place. So these are some of the sample profiles of stakeholders that we have listed here, but you will have to identify the stakeholders as close to possible. So we understand it is a COVID time and you might not be able to have a full-fledged stakeholder engagement with the people, but first thing is we would like you to ensure you identify the stakeholders right, so you know whom you have to approach for permission, whom you have to talk to involve them in the process, and all of those. So one step that we follow and we would recommend all of you to follow is to map the level of influence and level of interest of the various stakeholders. So like you saw in the previous slide, there could be different stakeholders associated with your site or your project. So in that case, the first thing, you can actually map the level of interest that each of them have in your project or in the community that you're working with. Also the level of influence each one exercise in the community or in the project. So this is a sample mapping of stakeholders. So like it could be various such profiles. So you have to map where each one is. In some cases, you might actually have somebody who has a very high influence, but not that level of high interest. Similarly, you can have somebody who has a very high level of interest, but not that level of influence. So this varies, this completely varies as per your site. But it would be nice if you can actually map this and identify who are those critical stakeholders who exercise a higher level of influence and also have a good amount of interest. They might actually be very helpful in taking your project idea forward. It could be with respect to permissions, or it could be with respect to the inputs, or representing the community and helping in connecting with the communities. So it could be of help at various levels. So I'm just going to take you through some of the techniques that we follow as a part of participatory planning that we do, which is to do with community engagement strategies. And this is also done in keeping in context the present scenario. So we have some of these under these three components that we discussed. There are some examples of how these things could be done. So looking at the first way, where you just have to inform the community. In that case, you can use some posters, pin it up on the notice board. It could even be a public art installation, or it can have some, something that engages the kids with some art and written material. So basically, this is to let them know that something is happening. It's a one-way communication where you just tell them that this is happening. Similarly, there are other ways how you could engage with them through a remote facilitator. Like for example, if you are located in one city and your site is a little far away and you're not able to access, then if you can actually identify one person from that community who is able to have some extra level of understanding as compared to the community, they might actually help you facilitating discussions from there. This could be helpful in places where the community does not have access to tech support. Similarly, you can have some very simple engagement strategies, like you could have a mobile public announcements which help you in communicating that there's a project that's happening and this is what is the transformation that we are looking for. And you can also take in some sort of input from the public by just asking them to show a green color or red color to understand whether they like it or dislike it. Similarly, there are other things. You can take the help of social media. You can use murals. You can use WhatsApp messages, which are techniques to communicate that there is such a thing happening. Apart from that, to engage with them a little bit more, you can actually get, if the community has access to technology, then you can have webinars where we talk to them, understand what is that they want, and you can also give them a brief understanding of what the project is. You can also reach out to them through phone, which is a possible way to connect to a lot of stakeholders, and also have some kind of a personal interview or a discussion with them on what they like. And you can have some news media articles. It all depends on who is your stakeholder. So once you map and you identify what is the level of influence and interest they have, accordingly, you can come up with techniques that can actually help in carrying forward this community engagement activity with the identified stakeholders. So these are some more examples of, we can have a large format poster announcing your project. You can have some postcards that can be distributed, or even handouts that can be given to all the residents of that community. Leaflets can be added along with a newspaper that gets distributed. You can also have some closed door surveys where you just you don't have physical or you maintain physical distancing, but still you're able to engage with the stakeholders. And there's another way of direct interaction, which could be through survey forms, where you circulate survey forms with some certain questions and ask them to actually fill them. This could be used mainly in cases where it is something like a poll, where you ask them what is that they would like to in specific, and then this helps in getting those kind of inputs. And if the community has some sort of access to technology, then you can use QR codes where you have links redirecting to the online surveys. And also you can try out some participation techniques where you have some incentives for them to participate. Like if you have some kids, if you can get some interesting gifts for them, they might be motivated to participate, so that it's an incentive based approach. Similarly, in case where you're trying a completely new idea and you don't have enough buy-in from the community, it would be nice if you can actually test the idea through approaches like tactical urbanism interventions, where you do a simple testing strategy to understand if the community is up for such a transformation or not. So this is just a summary of what are all the different approaches that can be taken based on what is that you would like to, the level of stakeholder engagement that you would like to do. It would be nice to see some of these reflecting in your project proposals. That helps us understand that you already have in-depth understanding of the stakeholders, and what is the technique that you are preferring to reach out to them, hear them, as well as if you were able to have some of these discussions and give us the output, that would help us help in making a case for your project where it is more bottom up, and there is a strong buy-in from the community. So this publication is there in our website, so please feel free to check that anytime. And so just going forward, this entire process of participating in OAN is a fun and a learning process, what we have noticed from the previous set of fellows. But there are definitely a few things to keep in mind when it comes to participatory planning or community engagement, and even in general. So the first and foremost thing is, what we want is not always the actual need. So as designers, we tend to believe that this is what would be ideal for this location, but that's not the case always. So it is we need to validate if what we want is the ideal and actual need of that particular community or in that particular place. So this is one of the main things that we need to overcome, because we often have this in mind that this is the solution, this can be done. So don't close up on the options without any engagement with the community or the relevant stakeholders. And when you're doing the community engagement activities, try to speak less and listen more. It's an opportunity. You're trying to engage with the community, and in that case, you will have to actually get back their inputs which will actually help in making the project a successful one. And when you are actually, so there's a lot of difference when you actually just design on paper and when you move forward and implement the design on the ground. So you need to be ready to take up different roles. It would be beyond just being a designer. So in cases where the community does not have an understanding of what your project is, you need to actually facilitate them, build their capacities, and understand what is that you're doing, why is this needed, and these kind of things. You need to take up different roles that are required from your end for the project's successful implementation and successful functioning on a longer run as well, so that there's a buy-in from the community. It doesn't make sense for you to implement something where the community is not interested or is not looking for such kind of interventions. So that's some of the important things that we would like you to keep in mind as you go about developing your project idea. Sumar, do you want me to touch upon the mentor part now, or?
Yeah, so we can just talk about it. We've received a lot of queries about mentors through our website. So there's a query section where you could put your queries forward for OAN at nasaindia.co/OAN. So a lot of queries have come majorly about the mentor. What sort of mentor should they take? What is the qualification that they should have for a mentor and all those things. Similar queries I can also see on the comment section on the YouTube video itself right now. So we can delve into how should a mentor selection go ahead with, and what are we looking for it. So just for everybody else, just a basic background of why this became a little more prominent factor in the brief this year is last year it was there to have a mentor, but we were not forcing it in terms of the brief. And we felt throughout the program that if there was a mentor in the project, they would be able to put together much better solutions which would have a larger impact on the society, and not just be just architectural designs or other urban development designs. So that's why the mentor thing got a little more prominent portion of the brief this year, that we wanted people to have mentors in their projects. So maybe you could delve into how they could look for a mentor, or how should the process go in terms of selecting a mentor.
Sure. Yes. So, like Samar mentioned, this mentor component of having a mentor is very critical. One thing is to actually help you in communicating your ideas or the process that you follow to us, because we have found some instances where there's a little bit of communication gap, or whatever you call it, where they're not able to actually communicate the exact issue or the on-ground situation to us. So in all those lines, as well as it would be nice if you can actually identify a mentor who has a context of the project that you're working on, if he or she has worked in the similar location, or if he has done similar kind of projects. It gives you some sort of an added inputs, and this is an opportunity for you to actually go out of your comfort zone, identify somebody whom you can actually work with to get that inputs and then implement your idea in a successful way. So with all these in mind, we had made this mandatory, and I understand there have been a lot of questions in this regard. So just giving you some important things on what would be the role of a mentor, which we believe would then help you to actually choose the right mentor for your project. So first and foremost is we need your mentors to be available with you for the project along the project duration. So in that case, what we mean is they should be able to give you all the inputs that are required for you to develop the project from an idea to implementation stage. So in this case, you need to make sure that your mentors have relevant experience working in similar projects, or at least working with a similar community, or the ideal thing would be with the exact same community. And when we say inputs, we don't demand them to be just professionals or architects or designers. It could be anybody who will be able to. It could be engineers. It could even be somebody who has hands-on experience working on such kind of projects, depending on your project idea. So we would urge you all to break out of your comfort zone and use this as an opportunity where you actually get to work with somebody new who has expertise in similar domains as your project idea. And some of the requirements that we have with respect to the role of the mentor is they should be available for the review calls, which will where you guys will be showing us the progress. And in those calls, it would be nice. It would be a mandate for the mentors to also join in, so that they understand what direction we are heading forward, and they would be able to help you provide guidance in those lines. And we require the mentors to actually review the project progress frequently. So there will be certain milestones which you will be submitting to us, but in between also, if there's some sort of support that you require, we believe that the mentor should be able to provide that by also keeping a check of the progress of the project on the whole. And in the end, we would also need the mentor to submit a one-pager report with all the milestone submissions that you would be sending, and also should be able to keep track on the financials. So financials, it covers both estimation as well as the cost, the final bills, and checking all the financials as well, as in when you spend something. So these are some things that you actually be not exposed to when as a part of the regular design projects. So for those who have experience in working in these lines, they might be knowing how to do this. But for somebody who is new, and if, for example, if you are planning to build some kind of a structure, and if you want some structural inputs, or if you would like to, discuss in specifics of what is that materials that make it suitable for these kind of interventions and those kind of things. So we need mentors who would actually be able to help you with these kind of inputs. So it helps in to move your project idea forward. Yeah. Chelsea, would you like to add some things to the role of a mentor?
Sure, sure. So we're really looking in the mentors that, they are either embedded in the community, like what Shravan was saying, that your project is in. Again, they don't need to be an architect. They could be someone with a local nonprofit or another design professional, engineer, social worker, things of that nature. We're really looking for someone that just has some real world experience that can help guide you through the process of your project. And we want to clarify too that mentors cannot be previous OAN fellows. Again, we want them to be people in the community. So that's just a couple of clarifications.
Yeah, so a few things I would like to add. As once you become a fellow, you become part of the network. So you will be there for the program itself. So there's no, we would not suggest you to have people that we've been connected with, including us, to have as mentors in your project. You would want somebody who's very connected to the neighborhood that you are trying to participate in. So one of the things that I just thought of on the fly is my understanding was that the process of how entry would come together is that after the brief was released until the registration date, which is 22nd, I think, which got extended. So by that time, you would have already done the stakeholder engagement. You would have sort of got a idea of what sort of project you would want to, or at least the kind of solution or the field in which the solution would be generated by that time. So would it be a site-based activity? Would it be a community engagement activity? Would it be something which is on policy, or is it something which is a technological solution? So what our understanding was that you would by this time be able to figure that out, and depending upon that, you would figure a mentor out by the registration deadline, and then move into after the registration deadline till the submission, you would then design your program with the mentor. But I realized that has not maybe happened with all the teams. So we will be taking a detailed profile and submission of the mentors in the submission as well. So there's an opportunity where we can let go of the mentor name in the registration itself. So after registration, the team's there, but you can still do stakeholder engagement quickly within a few next weeks, maybe a couple of weeks, and then figure your mentor out, and then move ahead with the submission. So that sort of leeway can be given. We will not make the registration requirement for mentor mandatory. Is that okay? Shri, Chelsea, is that fine?
Yes. Are there any other questions that you would like to pull in specific that we addressed?
Yeah. So regarding mentors, there were a couple of specific questions. One was, can the mentor be a master's in science and oceanography? Again, you can answer the question, but if the project is in that lines, and then you can have them as a mentor. We would suggest that you do your stakeholder engagement first, and then move on to getting a mentor on, because you would not want to have an architect as a mentor when you're designing app per se, or a app designer as a mentor when you're trying to do urban policy. So that sort of expertise is what we think will help getting the teams a better output.
Yeah, so just
So
one
we
thing that
will,
I would like to add to what you just mentioned. So OAN actually provides you with opportunities, a wide range of solutions that you can take up. So like someone rightly pointed out, it would be good if you can develop an idea, and this idea also we believe it would be something that you always felt could be changed, could have been better, or this is to be improved based on your understanding. So in those lines, try to develop something and then identify. So there are designing is one part of this project, implementation is one part of the project, but then for longer term sustenance and various other aspects, there are some critical components that it's also a learning opportunity for you to understand how these things work when it comes to real life implementation of project ideas, which is the community engagement, identifying vision groups, identifying stakeholders, the various activities that you would be doing with them. And similarly, the mentor here is also it should be in line with your project idea so that you get to learn something more technical on how to go about the implementation.
yeah, so there's one more question. How much inputs on site surveys and implementation should we have in the first stage? Which would, I mean, the first submission, I think.
Okay, as a part of the project idea, basic information, the site context needs to be communicated very clearly. It need not be, if in worst case where you're not able to access the site, it could be from your memory, or it could even be from a collective memory of your team or the community. It could be various ways, but then we would like to have the basic site context. And also, if you have something that is specific to the site in terms of why this is needed, we need certain amount of information on why this site, and we need the case to be made in the right way. You can choose on what is that information that helps in making the case for this project and that in that particular site.
All right. Okay. So just to let everybody know, we will document all these FAQs and queries that you're receiving, and we'll put them out on the website in the next couple of days, which will include everything that we've received on in letter on our website and whatever we're receiving now. About 25 questions are on mentor, which I think we've addressed. So we'll maybe consolidate them a little and tackle more brief related questions as of now. Then there's another question, which is, can the work be site specific design, and can it be a prototype?
It can be both. It depends on the project idea, basically.
Yeah, so as we mentioned in the presentation also, once you realize what the community needs, you will be able to come to this sort of a conclusion. We are not very hellbound on any one of them. So we would be looking for anything that solves a problem. When it comes to design, what is the criteria to judge between a physically built form and something virtual in the sense of program, app, or an idea?
Sorry, can you come again?
So in terms of maybe they're asking you in terms of the jury process, how do we distinguish between a physical built project or a program which involves an app? So we can take an example of last year of how the jury.
So it depends on the project idea. Who are your end beneficiaries? What is the expected? If you had gone through the brief in depth, you will understand there are some questions which deal with the impact, outcomes, output. So all these, and the way, how are the, like your problem statement, the case that you're building to, and the solution that you are arriving at, how much of it is actually helping in addressing the issue would be one of the main considerations. And then it also has something to do with your approach on how you are tackling this issue. So on all those bases, there have been some 10 criteria that have been listed as part of the evaluation process. So it would be evaluated on all those grounds. And we are open to tech-based solutions as well. You need to actually stay focused on having it implemented. It could be on site or it could be an app or something, but the main focus should be for those who the main projects that we would be looking forward to is the ones that can be implemented. So if it is even a technology based solution, then it must have sufficient user groups who would actually engage with the application that you are developing. So those are things that you need to actually understand and evaluate as a part of your project proposal. Chelsea, do you want to add to that?
Yeah, no, I totally agree, Mr. Garden. Just really, if it is a virtual app-based project, just making sure that the stakeholders are informing the process of the design and that it's a usable and needed application.
So these are real problems. So they definitely need real solutions. So when we say real, we refer to the impact that it will create. So, the more the real the solution is, and the more the real the problem is. So it also has a lot of weightage to your problem identification skill and the case building. So all of these together make a good project, a winning project as well.
One of a similar question to this topic is, can the prototype for a community, can it be a prototype for the community, or can it address a larger group of a community? So a definition of a community maybe.
Yeah, this again depends on what is the problem statement that you have. But to start with, how much money is there. So we would like you to also be wise in selecting to what extent you would be able to address. So it would be a suggestion that don't go for a very large scale solutions. Try to keep it small, and so the more implementable it is, there are higher chances of those projects getting selected. And when we say keep it small, we would like them to actually be prototypes. So in a way that it can be scaled up later. So this is like a first platform for you guys to bring your ideas to the table. And once you can use OAN as a platform to develop that idea, test it. And if you are able to convince the community, the stakeholders, the government, statutory bodies, and all of them, then you actually get more opportunities where you can apply for other grants. And even if there are once you come on board as a part of the network, if there are some funders interested from our end as well, we'll be able to connect you with all of them. And we would like your ideas to follow an incremental approach where it can be scaled up. To start with, keep it small, and since there is a limited budget to it, try to approach it in a more feasible way. The one thing that we found last time is a lot of problems were not very convincing. So the problem identification is something that you need to focus on. That needs to be a very important aspect to whatever projects that you are developing. And when it also with respect to the solution, make sure the solution is a viable, not just in terms of funding. It should be socially, economically, culturally, viable in all aspects.
Right. A couple of somewhere between technical queries and general queries. Can the student take up their old project and modify it in lines with the brief?
Chelsea, do you want to take that?
It depends what the project is and how it fits into the grants program. So if it's one that, you know, is still relevant with community members and you've identified a stakeholder and you see the grants program as being able to help implement it, by all means, it's your idea to apply.
I can maybe add something. We don't know what the definition of old project here is. So again, when you look at an old project, you would not have done maybe stakeholder engagement if it's not an urban design, like a later 4th or 5th year project. Before that, I don't think there's much stakeholder engagement that has happened. So again, it's just a design for some place. It's not what the place needs. So in those terms, it may not really be a suitable project for the jury. So always, I think, look for where you would want to give back to the society or work in the community, and then look for the problems and then think of solutions. And maybe if your project aligns with that, then it is okay. But again, the financial implications, if it's doable in real terms, and all those things are not really defined in an old project. So we can't really delve into specifics of that. Should the project be an original, or can we process or make the community aware with the idea, tech or program design, etc., which is already built by someone?
Yes, but you will definitely have to contextualize it to what the community needs, right? So it has to come up. It's not that you are taking an idea and forcing it on the community. If you are able to identify a similar problem statement, and if your solution is in lines with something similar, then you can actually work again. Then you have a site to work with. So all of these will influence the design. Just taking something from somewhere else and implementing it on your site is definitely not we would like to encourage, because that's not something that's bottom up, where you actually generate the idea, work along with the communities, and then make a solution for the problem.
I'll just take a couple of small queries here. One is, it was mentioned in the brief that can we have a 4th year or 3rd year student, and then there was a written query which was talking about a 5th year student. So the idea behind this specifying a student is that they can act as a team lead, and they can we can maintain communications with them throughout the program. Last year we felt there were groups which were either 5th year students or 1st or 2nd year students, where the promptness in communications lacked, or they didn't have enough experience to execute the program. So if you have somebody in the 3rd and 4th year group, we feel you have had enough experience to take some help of a mentor and take the help of the OAN network and implement the project. So that's why it got added, and we can maintain communications with you. It can be a 5th year student, but the idea is that they have to be we need to have surety that they will be there throughout the process and will maintain communications. It cannot be, some colleges have internship where 5th year students go off, or they have their thesis and they would not want to progress after 6 months. So that's not a possibility. So if you are willing to have a 5th year student as the team lead, we would want some sort of an assurance from them that they will be there throughout the process. Second question was, can you elaborate on the declaration form process? So this question comes because this year we are okay with having, and from years forward, we are okay in having inter-college teams. So it's not necessary that you have to be from one college. You can be childhood friends from a same neighborhood pursuing architecture in different colleges. So we're okay with that. We're okay with other people also. So the only restriction is the declaration process. The declaration form for us is to imply that you are a bona fide student of a NASA college. So therefore you're allowed to participate in the program. So that is why we need authentication from the HOD of your college that yes, they are part of our college, and our college is associated with NASA, so they can participate. So if there are students from 3 different colleges in a team, we would want 3 declaration in the 3 declaration forms attached in a single PDF with 3 different HOD signatures saying these students are a part of the team, part of a college. And in the bottom footer, we have made a space where you can mention the whole team for record purposes. So there you can mention teams across the different colleges. So that's the idea. For the declaration stage, then can you elaborate on the expectations for the submission on 15th of October? And do we require costing for the 15th of October? Shri, you're mute.
This is for the registration or for the submission?
Submission.
Yes, we need at least a first cut estimate for the project, because we don't want a case where you come up with an idea that is actually exceeding the funding. And even we are okay to have such projects provided you have a way to arrange for that additional funding that is needed. So you need to know how much is that is required to actually see through your idea on the ground. So it is very, very essential to have the estimate, at least a first cut estimate to as a part of the submission.
And we
So
understand
we have some,
that costs change over time too. So just get a general idea, ask around for materials and labor costs and things of that nature. And then if it changes during the processes of the project as it evolves, so be it. But we need some initial costing.
right. So part of the submission, there would be some questions that we would be asking the teams. So we will make them available in the FAQ document as well. They are based on the brief. Talks about what the aim of the project is, how are you willing to take up the activities, what are the outcomes, what is the impact, who are the primary stakeholders, what sort of approvals and permissions do the project need, and the mentor profile and how the mentor is appropriate for your project. And finally the proposal and the video link, etc. So we will make the detailed list available in the FAQ as well. It's there in the brief, but we'll just copy paste the exact questions, so you can work your way through that. And another question regarding mentors is, mentors can only be from the neighborhood we are going to work on, or can they guide us from a remote manner from a different place if they have the expertise in the specific field?
Yes, if they have expertise to deal with the kind of problem and solution that you're looking forward to, yes. It is not necessary that they have to be from the same neighborhood. The baseline remains the same. They should be able to give you all the necessary inputs to see your idea through successfully implemented. It would also be recommended if you can get in touch a little prior with the mentors before the submission deadline, so you can actually share your proposals with them, have a preliminary round of discussions wherein their inputs would actually help in making some fine tuning to your project proposal, and then that is sent to us as the project, the pitch proposal.
Yeah, so primarily the idea will be in next 7, 8, 10 days, you would be doing a lot of stakeholder engagement. You would be talking to people about your project and figuring the mentor out before you move into the submission phase and figuring the submission out with the mentor. There's one question which says, can you explain stage 1 and stage 2? I'm not very sure what stage 1 and stage 2 means. Do you think it's milestones?
I think it's just the timeline. So stage 1 is the application process. And if you're selected to be an OAN fellow, you move into stage 2. And that's just the process of starting your project. You'll have an intermediate report halfway through where you will present to the OAN team. And then you'll also just a timeline for your final report and project wrap up. And we understand that these dates may change a little bit. We are trying to be flexible with effects of the pandemic, but this just gives you a general idea. So if you're selected as an OAN fellow, you will move into stage 2.
Right. So
Just
stage
to
one is
add-
basically you put
Small,
your,
one second.
yeah.
Yeah, are you taking them through the interview part of it?
Yeah, so we can delve into what the stage one and stage two is.
Yes,
So
go ahead.
stage one is basically similar to how any other design competition, which is a two-stage jury, happens. So you would put your grant proposal forward to us. We would do, so we'll release the jury soon, before the submission deadline for sure. So the jury will review all the projects once. They would shortlist a few projects for the interview process where you would present your project, and after the presentation they would ask you a few questions. They would have a discussion within themselves, and then they would come to a conclusion in selecting for this cycle 5 fellows, which will move on to stage 2. So by stage 1 you will have your proposal, you will have an estimate ready, you would have a sort of a project timeline figured out of how you're going to go ahead with. In the stage 2 it's sort of a it's fellowship, so we all work together, and we then fine tune everything and try to implement it on ground and figure out how the disbursements are supposed to happen, what are the milestones that are going to be there for your project. So each project will have different timeline, different milestones, so we will figure that out with you and the mentor. So the stage 2 is a little longer and it's more collaborative in terms of the network, and stage 1 is more team-based activity in putting forward a great proposal for some neighbor. Shri.
And it
Yes.
should be, oh, sorry,
Yep.
should be mentioned.
Whatever I wanted to say. Yeah, Chelsea, please go ahead.
During stage 1, not everyone gets an interview that applies, so it will only be those that are shortlisted. And then that interview process will be taking place right after submission deadlines. So like give it like 5 days or so. And then we hope to announce the fellows that first week of November. So the interviews will be in between the registration or the deadline submission and then the announcement.
All right. So there's one small question of what needs to be there in the video. It's part of your proposal, so you can figure out what is there in the video, what is there in the document. But just go through the brief, make sure you're in line with it. So there's no specific requirements for the video. We would expect different videos from different entries.
We need the project idea to be communicated. So consider that as a pitch. And for somebody, you always need to understand that the person who's evaluating your project idea is from a different side. He's not in your shoes to understand what is there as the approach that you have followed, or what is the way you have you're placing this problem and the solution. So you should be able to communicate in such a way that a person who's evaluating gets the crux of what is that you are trying to address and how are you planning to do that. So it's a pitch video. You need to prioritize what is very critical for the evaluators to understand in your project's context.
Some more insight for the jury process, I think we can share. It's not very harming. One is that the program or the project should have visible impact on the society, that the outlook should be clear to the jury that the project. So some of the entries last year, the jury was not certain if there will be a visible or a change that the societies will see. And another question that came up was that sometimes the feasibility in terms of economic or in terms of practical was not there in those projects. So for economic feasibility would mean that the estimate is the project is too small, therefore the estimate is too small for having a good impact, or the project is too humongous for the grants program to cover up. And we're not very certain that even through different fundings from different places within a span of 1 year, you would be able to gather that amount to implement that project. So it should be in a reachable space. We know that you will get 1.25 to implement the project. If it's a little more, then you can reach out to other people. We will aid in that. We can look out for different places to get the money. So financially, that's a factor. And then there were times where the project was too idealistic and architectural. In terms of academic, it had an academic feel to it, and it was not very on-ground approach or was very practical. So just make sure that your projects and your proposals are in those sense complete.
And I should mention too that the process, like for your project, is very important, but we don't want you to get stuck in the process. We do want to see some implementable ideas. So having that tangible outcome, even if you're just trying, and it might not, work perfectly, but you change it over time. And if the community has buy-in to it, like it could last we hope it would last way longer than just the 1 year period. So don't get involve the process, but don't have that be your full project, if that makes sense.
All right, so I think we have two good questions now, which are, I think we are also pondering on it till a little extent. But before I'll address this question, do we need to take permissions from government bodies and authorities to implement the project? Yes, you'll have to do it after stage 1. So once you become a fellow, we would need written permission from all the authorities according to the project. So it's better if you do some recce by yourself and figure out who the people are. But after the second stage, you'll have to go and get the requisite documents, because you will be there on ground, and NASA India or Center or UDC will not be there in that city per se. But whatever aid you require from us in terms of letting the authorities know that you are representing this program, we would be more than willing to give you those documents. The other two questions are, can the solution be more of a gradual process? Can it take some time to come into full effect, or does it have to be an immediate solution?
It can be something that triggers a change over a period of time, but we need to know clearly what is that you are going to do to trigger the change. That output should be very clearly defined, tangible output, so that it's okay. It can be starting for a larger change, but yeah, please keep the output for the grants program tangible. It's good to have a larger vision, but make sure your output for the program is tangible.
Yeah, so, and the second question is, how, I think that went away. What was the question? How long will we have to take care of the project after its execution?
So we would look forward to projects that have a good sustenance systems. That's the reason why we are very insisting on engaging with the community, involving them in the process to a larger extent as much as possible, so they take it forward. We a minimum 3 to 5 year operation and maintenance plan is what we would like you to put forward as a part of the project proposal, on how you think or how you like to see this project sustaining on its own. But it also depends on how the methods that you are planning to do. It would be best if you can take something that involves the community, and they in an approach that they will take care of the project. So minimum 3 to 5 years is what is expected as a immediate plan as a part of your proposal, the maintenance strategy that
Right.
you have.
Right. So you don't necessarily have to be there to keep on running the programs, but you have to, within your within a year in your grants program tenure, figure a way out of how the project will continue. And that's when I said we look for practical solutions, that's what it meant, that it is sustainable and it's not some art piece that we've put together or which is usable and that's the end of it. The idea of a practical project is that it's sustainable in long term without maybe much active engagement from the fellows itself, or we have a certainty that the fellows will keep running it by themselves.
So as a part of your maintenance strategy, or even the design strategy, always keep in mind when you enter a public space domain for any project, you have a million users that you have to design for. In case of residences, you have a client and you know what is their requirements. But when you move forward into a public domain or community space, there could be a lot of different kinds of users, and their behaviors could also reflect the design. So kindly consider all of these as a part of the design, the solution that you're proposing, as well as when you consider an operation and maintenance strategy.
Right. So now people are getting into the finances of it. The questions are about the 1.25 lakh. Do they get that right after winning the project, or will it be reimbursed? And if we spend lesser than the amount, can we keep the rest of the money?
Okay. So see, it is going to be the project cost. So how much ever it will be against bills. You will have different stages of disbursement would be discussed, as in once you are selected as a fellow, whether timeline and the disbursement of funds, everything would be worked out. But there is an amount that you can actually keep as a prize money for yourself on successful implementation of the project. There is a specific amount for the mentor, which a mentor is entitled to get. But if it is also okay if you want to pool all of that money into towards implementation as well. But it would be the project, the amount that you spend on implementation of the project is what will be there in the remaining 1 lakh. The 15,000 that you get as a part of prize money, you're entitled for that once you successfully complete the project. And the 10,000 is towards the mentor. The 1 lakh, it will be against the bills. So how much you spend is what you will get it reimbursed. Up to 1 lakh is the grant money.
So as soon as the second stage starts, the fellows are selected, we will have you chart a milestone layout for you, and you will tell us what sort of reimbursements you'd be looking for. So as per actuals, whatever bills you submit to our, I think our treasurer will be running the funds. So you'll have to submit the bills through the process, and we'll be reimbursing as per the actual bills. And after the project is completed, you will receive the, as Shri mentioned, the 25,000 to as a prize money. If you spend less than 1 lakh, you will still get the 25,000 as prize money and the mentor fee, but the 1 lakh will, as much as you use, you'll end up getting. If some entry backs off after being selected as a fellow, will the other entries amongst the shortlisted entries be given a way to execute the project?
No, that will not be possible, because the jury has to decide, and once we have the jury panel finalizing the entries for this particular cycle, we will not be able to go back and consider more entries in this cycle, unfortunately, because we also have jurors from outside who are engaged for a specific time to evaluate the entries and give their inputs. So we would like, once the jury is over, it remains completed.
Yeah. Even if it's just a day after, we are doubtful that that would happen. So
we don't
they
want
put it in.
such cases ideally, because
Yeah.
this is an opportunity, and when you are getting an opportunity, we don't want somebody to back out. In that case, please don't apply for this, because you are taking away somebody else's opportunity as well. So make sure you have the commitment to to run this through and see the output. That should be the driving factor which gets you going throughout this program, amongst the various other things.
Now, can the project solution be a community business model?
But this is actually getting into specifics.
Yeah.
Of this. We need, this is supposed to come as a project proposal.
Yeah, I think we're done with the major sort of queries, which involved the mentor, how the solution should be thought of, does it have to be location based, and what sort of inputs do we require in submission stage, and how the program actually functions. So we've got delved into almost all the queries that we came. Remaining queries we will address as part of the document. How many entries will be shortlisted? Again, very technical questions. As many entries we feel we need to have an interview to figure out 5 fellows. That's how much shortlisting is going to happen. All right, so I think that's all. We will answer now. Similar questions are coming up, so we'll address them through text on the website as a document. So thank you all. Any closing words, Sri, Chelsea?
Yes. So actually, first of all, thank you, Sumar, for translating all your understanding from the past. You have been with us on board for all the calls, the jury throughout the process last year. So I actually feel there's a lot of things that you were able to translate in this call. So that was really helpful. Thank you so much. Even Vidya wanted to convey this to you, and we hope so. This year the program is getting bigger in terms of the number of entries and the amount that each team gets. So one thing that we look forward to is a larger impact not just the number of entries with the solution that is being put to implementation. So we would like to we hope the impact through OAN will keep getting bigger and bigger. It is for both the community as you address the problem, and at the same time for your personal level where you understand certain approaches which could actually change the way of how you move forward in life.
Thank you, everyone, and thank you, Simar and Srivardhan and Vidya, and this net growing observation and action network would not be possible without the hard work of these people that you see on the screen here and behind the scenes. And we're so grateful for it. And we are very excited to see your project ideas coming in. And we can't wait to have more of you become part of the network.
All right, so a couple of people that I think we should also be thanking from NASA's end. One is, of course, Chelsea and Sri are there on the screen, so I think that's given. Other than them, we have got Vidya Mohan Kumar, who is from UDC, and we've got Maria McDonald, who is the director at Center. And I think we should also thank Stephen Goldsmith, who was the previous executive director in the first cycle. So there have been, and of course the board plus foundation and Asia initiatives. So there have been a lot of people behind the scenes who've been getting the grants program up. The prize money and the grant fund also this year is very good. So we hope that this will increase and the program will become something of a national scale, if not at least a global, where everybody knows that if OAN is coming to town, there's something good that is going to come out of it. So thank you all for joining. And thank you, Chelsea. Thank you, Sri. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you so much, Sumar. Thanks to all your council members who have been giving their unconditional support towards this program, and hope we would be able to do, we'll be able to fulfill your ambition through this continuous support.
All right. Have a great weekend, everyone, and good luck with your entries.